So a lot of the stuff here that you see is actually, a lot of it has been done in Bangalore. So global VFX can come to India. We just need to figure out how.
Wonderful. So I think the point of that film that you saw is to answer some of the questions raised by Arul earlier. Can you get a fire to look like a fire? Can you get a creature to look like a creature? Can you build a world? Some of the shots you saw in the beginning and the end were drawn by Sir Ridley Scott on a napkin. And the world, the art, first of all, the art department has to start creating the art for the world that is suiting the vision of the director.
That is a blueprint.
And then you kind of go from that stage onwards, and it's a whole pipeline of work, and Madhu's been doing that for many years. But I think the great pride in what you saw is almost everything that you saw on the screen had a significant contribution from the team in Bangalore, from a very, very young team. So that's a very big part of it. So 2 weeks ago, there was a fantastic incident that took place where, that the MPC together with Rhythm and Hughes jointly won the Oscar for Life of Pi. So when they had the annual day for MPC celebrating its 4th year in India, we brought the Oscar to Bangalore. We put up a very big poster of Life of Pi, about of the size of that screen, and each of the artists who worked with it had a picture of himself with the Oscar, which he has taken home to his family and to his village and to his town, and that was a great moment, right? So, yeah. So that shows that kind of we can hit those marks, and the same has happened from other studios as well. What we do on the animation side, we won 3-4 Emmy awards, and I think to the individual artist who has gone against the wishes of his parents to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or a chartered accountant, and gone into this difficult journey, 3-4 years down the road for that person to reach this level is a big accomplishment for our Madhu, to see the integrated facility being put up in Bangalore, to get Arul to write you some new scripts that can do magic for you and stuff like that. So taking this forward, I just want to come back to the last part, which is to ask you whether you have any questions of us. We are good at things other than horoscope and stuff. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good question. Very good question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The My Dear Kutti Chatan, the version that I worked was re-release, which came in 1996. When it came originally in 1982, I was just passing out the school. So, but I can still answer the question of this ice cream thing. It was hung on wire. And the 3D stereoscopic has a great thing of, you may not be able to see the wire because, yeah, same thing. But the how all the helicopter coming into the screen, all the ice cream coming was, they were using this very thin wires, and they were, yeah. So now if you see My Dear Kutti Chatan, you can actually see the wire, because, yeah, now now we see things in so detail, we can actually see the wire. But those days it was like you are taken by this 3D effect so much. It is like, if I go to see a film projection, it is true. If I go and see a film projection, I see flicker. But for last couple of years, I mean, we used to see this previews of visual effects almost every day for many years. But when the digital took over, the film projection was, very rare phenomena. So when I went and saw print, which was, we did some 2 years back for some reason, I thought it had a lot of flicker. But I asked the Prasad Lab technician why it is flickering. He said, no. Then I realized you get used to this digital projection which doesn't have flicker, and you forget that the whole process. So same thing. So probably if you see 3D now, after seeing all this fantastic, fabulous 3D experience, you may be seeing the wire.
I just want to make a quick point on 3D stereoscopic. How many of you in the room have gone to a movie with glasses and seen 3D? Almost everybody. Okay. How many of you like the experience of wearing glasses and seeing 3D? All very few. Okay, good. So it's coming. It'll happen soon. The point I wanted to make about 3D, because a lot of visual effects in this country, a lot of studios have come up, and many of them are doing conversion. I think all of us have done some conversion from what we call the 2D to 3D, which is the 3D we mean 3D stereo with glasses, left and right. Now, the technology will emerge, because if you just want to convert it for 3D, that is actually something which the marketing people in studios in the US actually are trying to do, because they can charge more money per seat. And so converting a film, if it is not well converted, it in fact is not a very good experience. We tried to do one experiment, and the subject can't be discussed because the title is confidential, but we worked with a world major studio, and we built for them a 3D conversion unit here in Bangalore. And it cost us probably equal to a large, big budget Tamil movie budget to do conversion of a very good title that was released and a global hit back here. But they didn't just convert it. What the studio said and what the director said is, what would I have done if I was making this movie in stereo today? It was a fully animated movie. So he went back and created the storyboard and figured out which scenes you should use stereo to enhance the storytelling. You don't do the stereo just for, I'd like Madhu for you to add some comments on this. But he actually said that we will redo those particular scenes, money shots, the big shots, where the use of that other camera, is actually going to do something for the story and not just to create an experience of depth. So it's coming. The technology is still coming. The experience of the user is still coming. Maybe after 3 years or 5 years, the number of hands which you will put in the room may go up. Until then, it remains more of a gimmick. It becomes more of a way where you can do it. And in the shooting of movies, when you have that, you have to do different types of pan shots. You have to do different type of things so that you don't get that blur and that headache. You want to add something on this, Madhu?
Yes. One of the fundamental things that for the filmmakers who wants to do visual effects, to bring down the budget, is if you recollect any films in the past, if you're trying to say speed, the first thing that comes to your mind is that the bus jumps on the ramp. Even if Lord of the Rings, if you think, then you feel that the massive characters coming and fighting on the warfield, about millions of them. If you think about Matrix, then you see that time slice, bullet time sequence. So what that means, I mean, Speed doesn't have more shots. They had plenty of shots, and Matrix had a lot of shots. But all you need to do is just one money shot to make the film look brilliant. So I would say, this is especially for Indian filmmakers, and especially for the films which has got tiny budgets and which has got limited viewership. Still, we can make Star Wars here. Still, we can make Lord of the Rings here. Still, we can make Gravity here. It also depends on the culture. I mean, we don't like if Ramesh sir is traveling in space, we won't accept that because it's an Indian culture. If Ramesh sir is fighting with 10 gundas, then yeah, we'll like that. We'll blow a whistle, we'll say like fantastic action. That's culture, that going to space and we are making a film is a culture. So obviously we don't relate that. We like to enjoy the Western films, going to the space, and you make an Armageddon. I mean, Armageddon you can watch and like it only if it is a Western film. If you remake the same film in India, what a fantasy film it is, so stupid. That's culturally the thing. But however, still you want to do it, you can do it. My practical experiences, I'm a different visual effects supervisor. I don't rely upon more on the digital side. So I practically shoot all the dynamics, the elements. Like for instance, the fire, water, smoke, even some of the liquid elements. In Vishwarupam, let's not talk about Spider-Man, Lord of the Rings, but in Vishwarupam, when we shot that, we had explosions being shot live. I told Kamalji that I would like to have the real feel of explosion for me. Only then I can bring in the life into it. Shot the smoke separately. I shot a black smoke against white screen and white smoke against black screen. And then I shot the fire separately, and then I shot the cannon blast separately, and then I shot the actual building separately. And then later on, we enhanced in visual effects. We brought in all those things together. We enhanced that so that like it looks so real, and you feel it like there's a real good explosion there. The reason being, I don't depend on the digital version of that. Basically, is it depends on physics. In real life, how the fire reacts to wind, how the smoke reacts to wind. It's very, very important for us to make sure that how the lighting falls in, how the lighting reacts to it, how the shadow reacts to it, and how the flame is going to go, and how much the black smoke is going to be part of that. It's there in a subconscious. Like when you see something different on the screen, then it shows off its visual effects. So you got to make it straight. You got to make it, and also this also brings down the budget, I would say. You're not overly depend on the digital version of it. Either you may lose the aesthetics of it. B, obviously, the time the shot is going to spend its time in the studios, it's going to be really expensive. So I would tell the filmmakers that shoot practically as much as you can. Nothing like shooting practically. Where you can't do, really you can't do, that alone we have to work out like in a method, how we can do it. And just concentrate on one money shot on the film, just one money shot, which will talk volumes for ages, for years and years and years. If you can do that, I think that's a start for low budget films to do great visual effects, and then thereon you can travel through.
So we could go on for a long time. I can see that nobody is sleeping. Everyone's wide awake, and most people are even smiling. But I've been getting some gentle signals from the side that we are running out of time. I just wanted to say that, I spent, day before yesterday afternoon, although I was on antibiotics, I spent time in the Force India garage on the track in Delhi at the Formula One. And I think what we're talking about here is very similar. Cutting edge in automotive, and all of us understand cars and bikes and everything. Cutting edge in automotive comes from playing the game at the highest level. The design, the engineering, all those pillars that he talked about and everything else, of quality, of training, of precision, of everything, of seeing things before they happen, the simulators and everything else. It felt like walking into a visual effects studio. There were banks of computers monitoring things in real time for both the cars. There were banks of computers back in Silverstone, in the Force India garage, that was mirroring the same thing. There were two teams that were being run by visual effects supervisors, let's call them, who were directly reporting to the drivers of both cars. There was a supervisor on top of the drivers reporting to both cars who was overseeing the engineer. So if both people said come into the pit stop at one time, they can avoid it. And the whole thing works and it happens in real time. And I have on my camera, for those who want to see it, how long it comes into for a pit stop. You can't even shoot it, because the total time that the car takes to change over is 2 seconds. In fact, one of the pit stops was a slow pit stop because it's 3.1. So, you can only take it on video because I'm not on iPhone, by the time you press that button, the car is gone. So the point we're making here is there is technology everywhere. I think what we're talking is that there's going to be a new way of storytelling. We have lots to talk to you about. How will this high technology work for people who are going to shoot on iPhones? How will this high technology work for people who are going to do things in real time? How will all this work in different ways? So, you can go, there are many ways of doing this at the highest level, as we saw on the screen, and that can be done by us here in India as well. There are technology innovations where we should actually create tools and technologies for fire, so that if 5 studios are starting up, they don't start from scratch. They can use the fire template and adapt that template for themselves, and that's what we are discussing with the government here, to create a central repository, a lab, that will have motion capture, that will have rendering, that will have a vault of digital assets that can be created and make our movies in Karnataka and in South India and all over India, quicker, faster, better, bolder. And to wind up, I will just say that once we go out from here, I am collecting money from all of you for his movie. So I'm the guy you can give it to, and we are raising, because his IPO is coming later on, but I'll hold it in safe custody. To Madhu, we want him to come and produce the next big thing, with the lowest budget in India that makes the highest money everywhere in the world. That's our wish for you. Well, you got to be the VFX supervisor on that. Okay, producers, we have plenty, good producers everywhere. All the people in the sofa will, invest. One for each you can do. Okay, so I'll try this one. Oh, that. The producer said a bad word in reply, so it went deep. And Arul is going to be the person who continues to wave the magic wand. He gave birth to BitGen last week. If Chota Bheem can be 200 crores worth, maybe BitGen can be $200 million. We don't know. We'll leave it to the department. We'll see how it goes. And to Khori to bring back the Oscar next year with a different poster. So thank you very much for being a fantastic audience, and thank you to Fiki for the panel. Thank you.
Guru Prasad, filmmaker and producer. Mr. Rajendra Singh Babu, filmmaker and producer. Mr. Sasank, filmmaker and producer. And Mr. T.S. Nagabarna, film director and producer. Yeah. So I'll just hand over this stage to Mr. Chaitanya to carry it over. Thanks.
Can I? ನಾನು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆಯೋಜಿಸಿದವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದೆ ಯಾವ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಅವರು ನನಗೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಆದರೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ಯಾನಲಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಸಹಜ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆದರೂ ಸಹ ಅವರ ಕೋರಿಕೆಯಂತೆ ನಾನು ಮೊದಲು ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ನಂತರ ನಾವು ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಯಾವ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಫರ್ಟಬಲ್ ಇರ್ತಾರೋ ಅದೇ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಮಾತುಕತೆಯನ್ನು ಮುಂದುವರಿಸೋಣ. If there is anybody here who cannot understand Kannada, I'll be happy to translate to English for you. The topic of today's the discussion is making meaningful cinema, what it takes and what lies ahead. Now, when we say meaningful cinema, we assume that there must be something called as meaningless cinema. But that is a contradiction in terms, because cinema is about visuals. Even silent cinema uses visuals and images, and the rest of the cinema uses language, and all of them are meaningful. So cinema essentially is meaningful. So the question is not whether there is how to make meaningful cinema. The question is, how do we make cinema meaningful to the society around us, to the community around us? And since cinema, I have time and again said that cinema is perhaps the most cost-intensive creative medium. So cost-intensive that some of us sometimes wonder if this is a creative medium at all, or is this just another profession like many other mass media. It takes at least 50 lakh rupees to make a film, at a minimum. Now even the crowd-funded wonder of Pawan Kumar has cost 50 lakhs at a minimum. That being the case, if you see any other creative form, if a poet wants to write a poem, all he needs is a pen and a piece of paper. If somebody wants to write a novel, a laptop perhaps, a canvas and some paint for a painter, but not so in cinema. And cinema is also a very collaborative art. It is not one person making the cinema. It is